Today we're going to talk about limited palette in acrylic painting. And I'm going to give you 3 tips to simplify using a limited palette. Now, it sounds really simple. Choose red, yellow, blue, and mix all your colors from the 3 primaries. Now, I'm going to give you 3 tips to simplify it. First tip is that you carefully choose your primaries, because whatever primaries you choose are really going to affect the colors you create in your palette. So my first tip is that I like to use a bright palette. And what I mean by that is sometimes a traditional palette can be a little bit more dull, and the colors come out on the dull side. So the more traditional palette can be like an Ultramarine Blue, a Cadmium Red, and then a Cadmium Yellow Pale or Lemon. So that's more of a traditional palette. And the one that I'm going to show you first is a bright palette, which is more, the colors come out a lot brighter and lighter and more lively. And this is the one that I really like, and I'm going to share that with you. And it's Primary Magenta, Cadmium Yellow Pale, or Cadmium Lemon you could use, and Cerulean Blue. So we're going to start with those 3, and we're going to mix and swatch, and I'm going to show you how that palette works. Now, this is not rocket science by any means, and it's really fun to do. So I'm just going to write in my little swatching book here that this is our limited bright palette. I'm going to kind of do like a little mock color wheel with my plate, and that's why I'm kind of squishing things out on the circle as we mix things. Okay. And then I'll swatch into the book, and I'll move the book over. I'll kind of try to do it in thirds. And this is the primary magenta. Now, magenta is always a much cooler red than the cadmiums or a lot of the other reds, which are more warm. Okay, so put those aside. Now, I will add just a squish in the center here of my matte medium in case I need it for flow while I'm working. I have some paper towel here for disasters and to clean my brush in between mixing, and we're going to get started. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mix immediately in the middle here. I'm going to go for an orangey color. So hold on. I'm mixing the lemon and the I'm going to mix the lemon and the magenta together, and I'm going to get a beautiful orange color. And everyone knows that red and yellow make orange. We're going to get a beautiful bright orange color. Now we're going to mix a little bit of purple. Let's see what come up with here. We should be able to get a beautiful purple. Very nice. And those two make a lovely purple. And then we're going to mix the yellow and the blue, make a beautiful green. And these are really bright, clear colors with this particular mix. And if I add just a little bit of the matte medium in, it's just for flow. Okay, so now when we mix back to the primaries, we're going to get a tertiary color. And tertiary is just a big word that means third. Okay, so now we're going to get a blue-green. If we do that, we will get a yellow-green if we mix it back this way, which is really pretty. Nice, beautiful spring green there. Now we're going to get a yellow-orange if we go this way. Really pretty. Then you're going to get an orange-red. There. And then you will get a red-violet when you mix it into the purple. You get kind of a red-violet-y color, which is beautiful. Here, I'm going to mix a little bit more blue in there, make more purple. Don't have quite enough there. And then, of course, we're going to get the blue-violet when we mix back into the blue. Okay, so now we can go ahead and make our own little color wheel here. So I'm going to start it here, and I'm going to go around with these colors. So we're going to do our blue-violet and go around in a whole circle with these in order. I'll do my blue next to it. Mix a darker blue-violet. And then my nice purple right next to that. My red-violet. My red. My red-orange. My orange. Yellow-orange. The yellow. Mix a little more of this. Yellow-green. Green. And blue-green right here. So there we have our traditional color wheel in the limited bright palette. And so what I'd like to talk about is, and what I like to do next actually, is I like to set up, I like to kind of draw lines here across from each set of complements, okay? So we want to know which ones are complementary colors. So I do the primaries first, green and red, blue and orange, purple and yellow. But then each of the secondary colors and the tertiary colors also have complementary colors. And these are important to know as well. So we have red violet and the yellow green, and the blue violet and the yellow orange, right? And the turquoise, kind of turquoisey color, which is the blue green and the red orange. Okay, so my second tip is going to be talking about analogous colors. And I want to talk about analogous colors because analogous colors are really important. So I'm going to write, and that's that analogous colors are color neighbors. And I like to talk about analogous colors because they're the colors that are in a row up to any 5 colors in a row. Okay, so any 5 colors in a row on the color wheel look harmonious together. And why we need to know this is because when we're creating a color scheme, you can create a harmonious color scheme in your paintings if you choose up to 5 colors in a row. So it's really great to know that you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those colors are gonna go together. So, and they'll go together really seamlessly without having to worry about it. So analogous colors will always go together up to 5 in a row. So those are analogous. And they really help us in so many ways when we're planning our color scheme. My other tip about analogous colors, so they're up to 5 in a row, and you don't have to use 5, but you can, is that if you want to create an especially dynamic color scheme, you can go kind of in the middle and across and pick out one of the colors across, which would be complementary to those, and create a dynamic pop by using one of the complementary colors in a small way within that color scheme. So you can add a complement. So you can add a complementary color. For a dynamic pop. Okay. Now, I have a tool that I love to share, and this is still available, and I'll link in the description box below to where you can purchase this. And I share this with a lot of my painting students. I love this particular color wheel because it shows you, now this is an interior design color wheel, but I use it for painters and my painting students all the time, because you can move this color wheel around and it will give you 5 colors in a row of all the different primaries, secondaries, and tertiary colors. And so you can just kind of move this around and find your 3 to 5 colors you want to work with. And then it shows you your complementary and split complementary colors down below. So you can easily choose a complementary or split complementary pop if you wanted to add those into your color scheme. So this is a really great tool, and it's readily available, and I will link this into the description box below. I love this color wheel. It's just a really great tool to have for planning your colors. And here is our limited bright palette. And here, let me just put them all down next to each other. Now, if you're painting, of course, we're going to want to add, tints, tones, and shades. So all these colors can be mixed with white to create tints, gray to create tones, and black to create shades. So there's so many variations on all these colors that we just created by mixing the three primaries. You can imagine what you can do. And when you're working with this limited palette, all your colors mix and blend seamlessly, and that's why we use them. So all the mixtures blend and go together so much better when you're starting out with this type of a limited color palette. I'm just going to put them all across, going all the way around again across the bottom here. Now this is the bright palette. When we go into the duller palette or the more traditional or palette, you'll see the difference. And we're going to mix that up next. And you can see the difference. The real difference is always in the purples and in the greens. You can almost always get beautiful warm colors. Yellow, red, oranges. Those always come out gorgeous. But when you're using a duller, the duller colors, you will not get the vibrant greens. You just won't get those beautiful purples and combinations with the duller palette when you're creating purples. They're just a lot more muddy looking and not as intense. Okay. Those were not mixed as well as they could have been. So I'm just I want an accurate representation in my swatching book, so I'm just going over these. Now I want to look at this traditional palette, which is Ultramarine Blue. This is much more traditional colors. Cadmium Red, medium, and Cadmium Yellow, light. Okay, so it's the same yellow with a different blue and a different red. This is a much warmer red. Okay, and a very, very warm blue. And now I'm going to mix some colors from these colors and show you the difference. So here I'm just going to go through and mix these colors, and this is a much more traditional palette. So of course our reds and oranges are always going to be nice and bright, and they're always going to look really beautiful. And it's when we get into the greens and always the purples that we have the issue. And part of the reason is because of the warmth of the red we choose. Now, cadmium red is a very warm red, and it's almost orange when it comes out of the tube. And when we mix orange and blue, we get it's a complementary mix, and that's why our purples always come out very dull and very gray looking, or very almost like muddy, because they're almost complementary colors. It is a red, but it is very close to orange, and so that you're mixing almost complements, and that's why the violets or the purples do not come out the way you would expect them to. And also taking that very warm blue and mixing it with the yellow, you're just never going to get that vibrant spring yellow green, or that, as if you took a cooler blue, one closer to green on the color wheel rather than one close to red, because ultramarine blue is very red biased. It's very close to red on the color wheel, and so it has that kind of red bias, and so that's why we have the more dulled down greens with this palette. They are beautiful, and they can certainly be used for shadow places, but you're never going to get those really vibrant, even with this very cool yellow that we have on our palette today, in this mixture. That's why it's fun to experiment with the different colors in your limited palette, you know, and have a variety and try different cool and or warm versions of your red, blue, and yellow, and come up with different combinations that you like best. You can really see here when I get into putting down the violet mixtures, like how dull and gray they are compared to the ones on the other side. And you can see how after I get the blue in, the real difference between the blue and the purple. I mean, they're so unbelievably gray next to that blue. Now, if we had used a magenta ultramarine blue, it would have been a really beautiful color. That would have been. I want to talk about using the complementary colors and how we use them. So when we're talking about the complements, if you have this color wheel, it's super easy until you learn them. So when we pull up green, you can look right on here. It says this little arrow will point to its complement, which is red. You can do this on a regular color wheel as well. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab some of the green we mixed up earlier, and I'm just going to put it on my piece of paper here just for demonstration purposes, and then I'm going to put red next to it. So when complements go next to each other, they make each other vibrate, and they create a very dynamic color scheme when placed next to each other, like in a painting or what have you. They always look very dynamic when they're placed next to each other in a painting or in a color scheme. And so they create a lot of dynamic tension in a painting, and so that's why a lot of artists like to put or like to have complementary color schemes. Now, when we can use them for a lot of different things. So like if you have a super bright color, like I have this straight magenta color here that's very, very bright on my palette, or I can add a little bit more of this bright magenta color here. Now, if I want to knock down the chroma of this color and I just think it's just a little bit too bright, I can take just a small amount of this green, which is its complement, just a tiny dab, and I can mix it in, and it will dull the color down just a hair. So that's one way I can use it. It's still very pink and magenta and very vibrant, but I've taken the chroma down just a hair. That's one way we can use it. The other thing that we can do with complementary colors is that we can mix dark neutrals or neutral colors with them. So right now I'm going to take blue and its complement, orange, and I'm going to mix myself a dark neutral. Okay, so we know blue and orange are complements, so I'm going to mix myself a beautiful color by just mixing the two of them together, and I'm going to get a beautiful dark, pretty neutral gray color, right? If I wanted to go darker, I can certainly intensify by using more pigment and make it darker. And this is how you can create really pretty, almost black neutrals just by using your complementary colors. And they're always much more interesting than if you were to just like pull, you know, a primary gray tube of paint or something like that, you know, just using something straight out of a tube. When you start creating your own dark neutrals for shadow places within your color scheme using the paints that you're already using, they come out really beautiful. So you can experiment with using your complementary colors as a jumping off point. So I'm going to try to grab some of this yellow that's uncontaminated. It's pretty, that's not too bad. And then I'm going to grab some of this purple, because this is the last, one of the last sets of complements here. And I'm going to mix them together. Now, purple and yellow kind of do more of a, kind of a brownish thing, because the yellow is so bright. And then I'm going to come in and get more purple here. And this one is definitely a neutral, but it's just a slightly different one. And when you're going with a mix, like we mix these ourselves, so now I need more purple and I need to mix more of that myself. So I'm going to put more in here, and there we go. See, I needed it to be more intense, so now I made it a little bit more intense. Okay, so now this is a really pretty, almost a deep eggplant color. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow to it. See if I could really get it to, now I have a really dark brown here, which is really pretty. And you can just fuss around with these neutrals and see what you come up with. But when we start adding whites into these, and you can really start to create a full range of skin tones, browns, beiges, earth tones. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do with these colors as you start to mix them together to create your own range of dark neutrals. Here's a little bit of, I'll do a little bit of green and red together because I haven't done that one to show you. But this is also very nice, a nice combo. I'm gonna make more green. And they all do something slightly different. If something turns a little bit too green, you add a little bit more red. If you're trying to do it, if it's too pink, you add more green. You know, that's how you mix it. Like this one's a little bit green right now. Just add a little more red. And you find your favorite mixtures this way. Okay. So my 3 tips are: choose your primaries carefully, analogous colors, harmonious palette is created by choosing analogous colors, And mixing complementary colors, you can create beautiful, gorgeous neutrals. You can knock down the chroma of a color using complements, and you can create a beautiful, dynamic, complementary pop using complementary colors with an analogous color scheme.